Hi everyone, my name is Mavish and I'll be the host for Leaders Fluent's brand new series, INTERNviews. For our third episode, we're joined by Gabriela Tam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Gabriela here is an accounting and finance student at Waterloo. She's also a CPA Articling Student at MNP. Before we begin, Gabriela, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your professional goals following the completion of your undergrad?
Yeah, definitely. So, hey everyone, my name is Gabriela, and I'm entering my second year of AFM at University of Waterloo this coming fall. And after graduating, I definitely do want to obtain my CPA designation and possibly even my CFA designation. And I would probably want to continue on into public accounting or even explore around. My options are really open.
Awesome. So how did you find out about this opportunity to become an Articling student? Did you use any school resources?
So I was aware that MNP had the articling student position, as I noticed how a couple upper years from my university who had either interned there or had their co-op placements at MNP. So I always kept MNP in mind when I was doing my internship search. And I did not use any of my school's resources, but I do know that we have something called Waterloo Works, which assists students in helping find co-op placements, internships, and even volunteering positions, I believe.
Do you think large virtual networking events are useful?
Yeah, I definitely do think virtual networking events are useful, but I don't think it necessarily has to be large to really help you, because either way, networking events just help you meet the recruiters, learn about the firm, and just get an overall general sense of what the culture is like. And and it just also helps you push yourself, like for those who may be a little more introverted. And I found that a really nice environment to be in. And in general, I just really liked virtual networking because I felt that everyone had the common courtesy to wait till everyone spoke before asking another question. But again, I'm not quite sure what it's like in person, as I've never been to an in-person an in-person networking event before.
So what at MNP stood out to you and made you want to apply there?
Yeah, so back in March, I actually had the opportunity to network with one of MNP's Markham HR personnels at my school's networking event. So through our conversation, what made me really interested in working at the firm is definitely because of the size and close-knit culture of the firm. Since it's a Canadian mid-sized accounting firm, I found it to be the perfect stepping stone for me, as it wouldn't be too intimidating, but also a place that I would be able to learn a lot from.
So what was the application process like? Was it difficult to follow through?
No, not at all. It was pretty straightforward. So I just applied on LinkedIn back in April, and what they needed was my resume along with the cover letter and my most recent transcript. And afterwards, I had a phone screening with the HR personnel who I happened to actually network with at my school's networking event, which was pretty nice. And then a week later or so, we had our virtual interview, and then I heard the results soon.
That's great. So how important would you say extracurricular activities are when it comes to securing an internship?
I definitely think it's really important to have some extracurriculars, because it just lets the employers know that you've had experiences in the past or maybe even now that's helped you gain some valuable transferable skills, which are so important in the day job now, or just for anything in general. And so you never have to really worry too much if you don't have the proper technical skills when applying for jobs, because you're able to learn that in the job. And what employers are really looking for is just a positive attitude and a willingness to learn. And from that, they'll be able to be more than happy to help you.
Okay. So can you walk me through what your usual day at MNP looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So during the majority of my time at MNP, I was responsible for doing compilation engagements, specifically known as notice to readers or NTRs. And I also would have to file T2s, which are corporate tax returns for our clients. And then afterwards, when it's maybe like a slower day, I usually like to enhance my knowledge by doing some e-learns on MNPU, which is MNP's learning platform. And that's also something that I really like about MNP, because one of their values is the importance of professional development for their employees.
That's great. For your co-op term this year, was it for your internship, was it completely online or were you attending in person as well?
So my internship was completely online. So it was work from home, and I was actually mailed a laptop from MNP to work at home. And it was just a pretty smooth process. We would talk on Teams to communicate with our coworkers, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I was able to stay at home and just maybe wake up a little later than if I were to have it in person and having to commute. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah, that sounds great. So how did you manage that? Was it difficult when it came to understanding specific tasks?
No, not really, not at all, because like we would basically do the same tasks throughout our whole time, which is performing NTRs and T2s. So in the beginning, I was already shown how to perform one. So then throughout my time at the firm, when I had to prepare them, if I ever needed help, I would just reach out to my buddy or the engagement manager that was in charge of the file. And it was really easy. And we would just schedule a call and they would help me.
Were you provided with any training?
Yeah, so during my first week at work, we were assigned a couple of mandatory e-learns to do, and it was just to get accustomed with MNP's platforms and applications, as well as being accustomed with how to perform engagements that we have to do. And we also, since I didn't have any accounting experience prior to coming to the firm, my engagement managers at the very beginning would completely walk me through how to perform the whole file, which I was so thankful for. And as well, we also were assigned a performance coach and buddy who were so supportive during my time at MNP. And yeah, I just really was very appreciative of that.
So from time to time, did you receive any constructive feedback from your supervisors?
Yeah, so definitely. We have something called an engagement performance report, or an EPR at MNP. And how it works is that every time you, depending on the numbers of hours you spend on a file or multiple files for a specific engagement manager, we would have to fill out some strengths and weaknesses for ourselves based on our own personal experience or performance on the file. And then right afterwards, our manager would also provide us back with some positive and constructive feedback. And I just really appreciated that because it just allowed me to reflect on myself as well as be aware of my areas of improvement.
So, okay. So how does this internship help you grow? Have you gained any valuable skills?
Yeah, definitely. This internship has been such an eye-opening experience for me, as I've been able to just firsthand experience what it's like working a corporate job. And as I just mentioned, the EPRs, they were so helpful because I was just able to self-reflect and just grow from the constructive feedback that my managers would give me. And I've just also learned to communicate better and just be more considerate. So for example, whenever I had files with any questions that I might have had before I would reach out to my engagement manager or partner, I'd be sure to compile a list of my questions instead of asking them one by one, because I knew how valuable my manager or partner's time was. So whenever we had time, we would hop on a call and they would answer my questions, and then I would write down their answers into my doc. And then after we end our call, I would proceed to make those changes on my file. And in terms of some technical skills, I've really been able to familiarize myself with using some applications such as Caseware and TaxCycle, because we had to use those all the time when performing our NTRs and T2s for our clients.
Okay. So how do you maintain a work-life balance?
Yeah, so another great thing about MNP is their work-life integration. So I would say that we had a pretty flexible schedule for the employees, and it's because as long as we fulfill our hours for the day, we're free to take breaks or fulfill any task that we might have had that's outside of work, whether that be walking our dog or going to the doctor's appointment. But in general, since I came during the summer season, which isn't too busy, I was able to maintain, I was able to be pretty, I wasn't too stressed out.
Okay. So how long in advance of a desired work term should students be applying for internships?
I definitely think it depends on the company that you would like to apply to, but in general, you're not really sure when companies are going to start putting out their postings. So for sure, it's always best to apply early because some might like to post as early as January or December, or some may do it in April or even in the summertime. So yes, applying early, maybe during your winter break or at the start of your winter term, is best because you're able to just have more options and be less stressed out.
Okay. Do you have any tips on how to stand out from other applicants?
Yeah, so I guess like a pretty obvious tip is to be yourself and just be truthful with how you present yourself. So and I'm talking about in an interview standpoint or when you're writing your resume, because let's say for an interview standpoint, it's just really obvious for employers when you're not being your true self. And like when you're being your most natural is when you don't really need to worry of how to act. And for a resume, like maybe putting in false information will help you obtain that job you really wanted or an executive position, but it's just not going to do you good in the long run because so many jobs just strive on the importance of integrity and ethics. And just another tip is to attend networking events if you can, because you're just able to meet the recruiters and also just spark some interesting dialogue to them because they're always being asked the same questions like, oh, what is your culture like? Or can you tell me what employees do on the daily? And you're able to maybe create something unique with the recruiter. And when you send a follow-up email to them and mention that, you'll have a higher chance of them remembering you.
Okay, thank you for that advice. All right, I'm afraid our time is up. That brings us to the end of our third episode of INTERNviews. Thank you so much, Gabriela, for taking the time to join us today. Your insights were great, and I'm sure the leaders fund community will leverage them.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, as well as keeping up with our other social medias. You can find Leaders Fund on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Leaders Fund.